The narcissist is covering a veil over your face. Okay? Right, guys? They're covering a veil over your face. They only tell you what they want you to hear, but they cannot tell you what you should hear. The narcissist follows a script. They follow a script. And their operation goes according to the script. They cannot do anything else other than what is on that script. Okay? So it's why you hear many times people talking about gaslighting, blame shifting, this, word salad, and everything. There's a lot of terminologies that many people talk about as far as a narcissist is concerned. Now I talk a little bit slowly because, people walk around and when I was in the dysfunctional family matrix, the parent used to say, you don't have to even question what the parent says. What your mother says is the ultimate truth or fact. What your father says is the ultimate truth or fact. So you are not supposed to question anything, which means that they can always tell you a lot of garbage and you can swallow. You can get away with it. They can get away with it. And you can go with that. You think, okay, these are my parents. So you want to be a nice child. You don't ask questions. And they'll continue gaslighting you all your entire life. I woke up when I was 40. And I discovered this was a broken system. You see, many of you guys have dealt with narcissistic people. And you have noticed, you feel like you are in a stance. I don't know what is that word called. You feel like you are in that space where you no longer understand reality. You no longer understand what is reality. You no longer even know who you are. You don't know what is happening around you. You feel like you're in a very deep sleep. You wake up from sleep, morning, and you spend your entire day, and your mind still feels like you are sleeping. And sometimes you want to pinch yourself. You want to slap yourself to wake up, and you can't. It's a very deep subconscious programming. It's why they call them the masters of illusion. They create an illusion. Maybe not they create because they follow the script. So they have these illusions that they feed you with these illusions, and you are going to continue feeding on those illusions for as long as necessary until you are able to figure out the truth on your own. Then the illusion shatters. Awakening from narcissistic abuse is the moment you break out of that illusion. A narcissist will make you believe there's no one out there for you. Oh, I'm your father. It doesn't matter how far you go, wherever you go, I'm your mother. Nobody else will love you the same way I do. Dysfunctional parent. And they have convinced you all your life that you were supposed to love them regardless. And that you have done that. You have actually loved these people with utmost respect that they are parents. You have loved them genuinely until you woke up one day and you figured out your parents was full-blown narcissists. Then eventually you detached yourself from the unit. So you have been living in an illusion. Your life was an illusion. I don't care what it is. I don't know what you want to call it. You call it a marriage. I call it an illusion. You call it a normal family. If there's a narcissist at the top, it's an illusion. You call it a very stable church. whichever congregation, community, society, as long as there's a narcissist at the top, you have been actually fed with an illusion. And it is very difficult to wake up from this illusion. Sometimes you wake up and you figure out that this individual is an illusionist. And you want to slap yourself. You're thinking that maybe you're dreaming, you cannot accept this. It's very difficult to accept. Everything you ever thought was true, or everything you ever believed from that individual or individuals, could be a couple of them. These individuals, they have a veil covered over your face. In one of the videos that I did a couple of years ago, I told you how the narcissist puts you to sleep. And the illusions can be different in every scenario, depending on who the narcissist is. Let's say, for example, in a relationship situation, they will come and they will tell you, oh, we are going to make a family, we are going to build together, we are going to build projects, we are going to build companies, we are going to start this and we are going to start that. And they're going to feed you with that illusion. So whatever it is you thought you had, whichever plan you thought you had for yourself, you're going to believe that whatever they have told you is what is going to happen. They are going to convince you that that is exactly what will happen. And even sometimes they may mean it, until you realize that they are not capable to go ahead with that particular intention. It is not in their code of operation. We're going to have a family. We're going to have kids together. We're going to build everything together. And then one day you just wake up and realize it was all a game. These people are playing a game. And it's a very dangerous game. For them, it's business as usual. But for you, you're a very serious individual. You ought to move accordingly. You ought to move in your truth. But they feed you with this illusion, something that you are going to believe until a couple of years later, you realize they was putting you to sleep. You will have a leader, for example. A lot of you guys go to these churches, the Pentecosts, and these other churches. And the leader is going to tell you everything they know about Christ and Jesus and so on and so forth. They read all the scriptures. They will baptize a few people. They will convince you. I've been one time to one church, and I remember this individual telling people, if you want to be blessed, you have to give and give, just give. So this individual even forced people to go and sell their land. He told people, you should even go, if it's possible and you want to give to the house of the Lord, go and sell your properties and your belongings. So I remember back in those years, it was lockdown. Everybody was at home. You guys know that period, remember. And these churches was closed. So this individual didn't have anywhere to take money. So they opened an account. And they said, even if the church is closed, all those months, you can always give to the Lord, continue giving. And these people are sending money to the account. Now, this thing can go on and on and on. But I just want to let you know in this video that for as long as you've been involved with a narcissistic individual, it doesn't matter who it was, parent, whatever, father, mother, husband, wife, children, anybody that has been a narcissist in your life, they fed you with a lot of lies. That is what they do. That's what they do. That is their signature. So that moment when you awaken is that same moment when you pierce through the veil and you finally understand that everything you ever knew about reality was upside down. Is the reason why you start a lot of times you wake up and you start looking around you and you're seeing them everywhere. These people have always been around you. They have been around you, many of them, You know, you had an appointment at church, you was dealing with one. Your friend was one. Your partner was one. Some of your family members was part of the team. There was a team. These people was like a team. And this illusion, it can also go very deeper, depending on how many narcissists around you. Because wherever you go, let's say for example, from your home, maybe let's say you go to church and there's another narcissist there, they will continue with the illusion. So you are always going to be diving from one illusion to another. And they are going to drag you in the completely opposite direction until you realize one day you have been actually existing on a completely different timeline, the inverted reality, the reality where they exist spiritually. Is why a lot of times people wake up one day and they figure out that they've already forgotten themselves. They don't remember who they are. They don't even know what is going on around them. They have forgotten their path completely. Is when now you start to pick up all the lost pieces. You're starting to climb back to the light. Because you see, when you're a person, a real person, because we understand narcissists are not real people. They appear to be real, but they're not real people on the inside. You realize that you have been following a person that didn't even exist. The person you thought that was dealing with you was dealing with, they did not exist. They existed physically, but they was not with you mentally, emotionally, psychologically. On a deep level, they wasn't with you. It was just something you could see and you could name. Okay, that's my dad, that's my mom, that's my pastor, that's my teacher, that's my this, that's my therapist, that's my psychologist, that's my this, and that's my doctor. Is the people that was in the physical. But a number of them, I'm not saying all, these things have to be taken very carefully. Not all, but many of them, they was part of the game. Okay? So you wake up and you start picking up the pieces and you're like, okay, now I've been following this whole thing. I believed in this marriage for the last 20 years. Nothing changed. It has been worse. You've tried everything. You couldn't save the marriage. You've tried everything. You couldn't save that friendship. You've tried everything to stay in that church. It was not possible because you was dealing with energy vampires. So the veil lifts. When you wake up, the veil lifts, okay? That veil lifts. And you've heard many people saying that the moment that veil lifts and you see what has been happening behind the veil, it is very difficult to unsee this. It is something you cannot unsee. You will try to pinch yourself back to sleep. You will try to think you're dreaming. You will try to think, am I really seeing things for what they are? What is happening here? It is what it is. Exactly. That is what you're seeing. You're looking beyond the veil. You're looking beyond the illusion. It's all been a setup. Okay? It's a matrix, ladies and gentlemen. It's a matrix. And those guys, unfortunately, as we live now, we can see them. They are the ones running the show. You know what I mean? So the real people are behind the scenes, being abused in their own homes, being gaslit in their own churches, being lied to about everything. But the thing is, the good thing, you see the truth and you cannot unsee it. The moment you see what is happening behind the veil, you cannot unsee it, ladies and gentlemen. This is something you're going to struggle with. One of the things I struggled with in the first months when I was starting my healing was to come to the realization that I had been dealing with these people. They had been everywhere. They was all over the place. I just couldn't see them clearly at the time. It is unbelievable, ladies and gentlemen. It is extremely unbelievable. For the ones of you guys who are still entangled, I hope that veil will lift, okay? It's just one day, probably your ancestors remember you and they're like, okay, our son, our daughter, you have suffered enough. It's time for us to lift the veil. So they choose to lift the veil. Some of you may say God. Others may say Jesus, universe, most high, source, your spiritual team, divine team. They eventually lift the veil off of your face. And that is the beginning of your freedom. And I can promise you, when you test that freedom that is beyond narcissistic abuse, you cannot untest it. It is freedom on a completely, entirely different level. Okay? You will surely understand what it means to break away from a narcissistic individual. or maybe if you've been dealing with some kind of a system, it is extremely unbelievable. When you test that freedom, you cannot untest it. It is something nobody can convince you because you know how it tests. Waking up when you don't have to worry about who is going to gaslight you, walking on eggshells, who is going to say what are they going to do, those kind of things. It's a different type of level altogether. That is because you have finally been able to lift the veil and to see what has been going on behind the scenes. It's all spiritual, okay? And again, it's not personal. I've told you guys, it's always been a battle for your soul. It's spiritual warfare, okay? It's happening on a spiritual dimension. So let us know what you think about the video. You guys know, I do love and appreciate your support. Please book a session if you want to. You may donate or support my channel if you want to. Everything you need, you'll find it in the description below. And until then, I will see you guys in my next one. Denzo Moss signing out. Much love and blessings. Peace.